That's enough of that. It's kind of the musical version of a run-on sentence. It's a bit relentless and kind of hard to follow. It's all the right notes, but it just comes across as being mechanical. It doesn't matter what style of music you play, jazz, blues, rock. Good phrasing is an essential part of a great solo. In this video, I'm going to break down phrasing and show you some simple practical ways you can use to dramatically improve your solos. We'll cover how to really think about phrasing, 3 things you can do immediately to improve your phrasing, a powerful exercise that'll help you expand your phrasing vocabulary, and as a bonus, I'll share the one thing that completely changed everything for me when it comes to phrasing. So think about it this way. Phrasing in a solo is a lot like giving a speech or a monologue. We've all heard speakers who are, well, kind of boring, right? And then we've heard speakers who are absolutely mesmerizing and have you hanging on every word. What's the difference? One of the biggest differences is timing. The best speakers use strategic pauses. They give you time to digest what they said, to really let it sink in. And some sentences are short and punchy, others long and flowing. They build anticipation. They might even throw in a few well-placed surprises to keep you on your toes. Solos are exactly the same. Without phrasing, it's just a stream of notes run on sentences. With phrasing, it becomes a story, something truly engaging. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest issues I hear with solos is endless lines. The solo just starts and it never seems to end. The lines just keep going and going, no breathing room, no shape, no real intention. It's like the musical equivalent of somebody talking just to hear themselves talk. The opposite can be just as bad. Boring, blocky phrasing. You know, a short phrase for each chord change, everything starting and ending in the same place, all the phrases exactly the same length. It sounds predictable and boring. Both of these end up sounding more like exercises than solos. They may be technically correct, but they're not engaging, they're not musical. Now, there are a couple of things that are probably causing these problems. The first one is, a lot of time, it's just a fear of getting lost. You're running those scales and arpeggios, and you're so worried that if you stop, you won't be able to find your way back, or you won't be able to start again. And then the other big problem is that you're only thinking about the chords. You're playing over the chords, not the song. So you're not telling a story or creating a melody that connects them in any meaningful way. So let's look at some things you can do about this. The first one is a very powerful tool that's often overlooked: silence. Silence is golden, especially when it comes to phrasing. Leaving space in your solo is a good thing. Think of it as breathing room for you and your audience. First, it gives the listener a chance to digest what you've played. Second, it gives you a chance to regroup. Think about what you want to play next. And third, when you use silence strategically, it creates anticipation. It makes what you do play sound more important, more meaningful. It's like a well-placed dramatic pause in a speech. Miles was a master of this. Check out the first 16 bars of his solo on So What. That brings us to the idea of playing lines with intent. Use silence to provide a clear beginning and an end to your phrases. That way they have direction and shape, and they become complete thoughts, not just random notes strung together. And one last thing, eliminate the interjections. You know those little ums and ahs of your solo? Those little filler licks that you play without really thinking about them? By being more intentional with your lines, you'll naturally reduce those unnecessary notes and create more space for your real musical ideas. So here's an exercise I call the Oscar. Unlike horn players, guitarists and pianists don't have to breathe to play. So what Oscar Peterson did is he hummed while he was playing to remind him to leave space. So practice humming or singing while you're soloing. And when you run out of breath, stop, take a breath, and continue. Now another simple but very powerful way to spice up your phrasing: don't start on one. Instead of always starting your phrases on beat 1 of the measure, try starting on any other beat. An upbeat is usually the best place to go. So you notice how starting on the upbeat creates a sense of forward motion and anticipation, pulls the listener in, and it makes your lines feel less predictable, more alive. Now, while not technically phrasing, this also works for pitch. Instead of automatically starting your phrases on the root note, the 1 of the chord, try starting on any other note. Experiment with the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, even a tension note like the 9th. You'll be surprised at how much more colorful and unexpected your lines become. Here's a variation on the run-on sentence I played at the beginning that applies the techniques I've mentioned. I'm sure you'll agree that it's a bit better. These two ideas, silence and not starting on one, are something anybody can do. By intentionally avoiding the obvious choices, you can unlock a whole new level of creativity in your phrasing. So experiment with different starting points and leaving space and see what you can discover. Now here's one of my favorite exercises for phrasing. I call it phrase containers. It's based on an idea from Kenny Werner's book, Effortless Mastery. What you'll do is you're going to play a chord for one measure. And then you're going to follow that with a phrase that fits within a one measure container. Now, in that container, you can play as many notes as you want, or as few, even none. Okay? You'll want to practice that with different chords and with containers of various lengths. I hope this video has given you some practical ways to improve your phrasing. Now, if you're ready to take your jazz guitar playing to the next level, I'd love to work with you. I'm offering a completely free trial lesson. It's a chance for us to connect, assess where you're at, and create a personalized roadmap to help you reach your musical goals. To sign up, just click the link in the description below. So here's the bonus I promised. The one thing that completely changed everything for me when it comes to phrasing is that I started thinking about the melody instead of the chords. Now, I'm not necessarily saying you need to solo on the melody, although that's definitely one approach you might take, and it can be very effective. What I'm talking about is keeping the melody of the song in mind as I solo. When you're focused on the melody, your solos become much more coherent and meaningful. They feel more connected to the song and more like a natural extension of the original musical idea. You're not just playing scales and arpeggios over chords, you're creating a melody that complements and enhances the original tune. Now, to do this effectively, you really need to know the melody inside and out. Sing it, hum it, play it on your instrument until it's ingrained in your ear. You're still going to be aware of the harmony, but just the key centers and a few target notes. Your focus is going to be on playing melodies. When I started approaching my solos this way, it was like unlocking a secret door. Suddenly, my lines had more purpose, more direction, and more emotional depth. My solos went from being just a collection of licks to being a real conversation with the song. And best of all, I always know where I am in the song. So as you've seen, improving your phrasing can make a huge difference in your solos. It's a game changer when making them more expressive, engaging, and musical. But remember, there's more to great soloing than just phrasing. It's just one piece of the puzzle. There are still other aspects besides notes that are essential for creating compelling solos. To learn about those, check out this video.